Tonight on The ReidOut. A major victory for reproductive freedom in Kansas, which should make Republicans very nervous about the midterms. But it was also a big night for the big lie. Arizona Republicans go full MAGA, and the state's top conspiracy theorist could end up running the future elections. Also tonight, more missing text messages, this time at the Pentagon. Maybe it's worth asking which text messages did not get deleted by Trump officials. And speaking of text messages, did you see this? Alex Jones on the witness stand, hearing for the first time that his lawyers mistakenly sent years of his texts to the opposing counsel. Oops. But we begin tonight with Samuel Alito, the Supreme Court justice who played partisan God, or at least thought he could, when he authored the majority opinion that overruled Roe. Now, we imagine today was a hard day for Justice Alito. But no, we don't feel especially badly for him. Remember, he is the one who cited, in his opinion, a 17th century jurist who supported marital rape and witch burning. So it shouldn't surprise us at all that Alito, in his first public appearance since penning that opinion, gloated over making women suffer and mocked his foreign critics during a speech he delivered in Rome.
I had the honor this term of writing, I think, the only Supreme Court decision in the history of that institution that has been lambasted by a whole string of foreign leaders. One of these was former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, but he paid the price. What really wounded me was when the Duke of Sussex addressed the United Nations and seemed to compare the decision, whose name may not be spoken, with the Russian attack on Ukraine.
Who knew? The Supreme Court justice had jokes, fit for a dystopian comedy club, no less. As we often say on this show, quoting the great Adam Serwer, the cruelty is the point. Yet most voters in America are rejecting such cruelty. Alito and the conservative majority believe that they could do this to you and laugh about it. But on Tuesday, Kansas had its own message to send, delivering a stunning FU to the right's shock and awe campaign against bodily autonomy. It was a testament to the desire for abortion rights in this country, in one of America's reddest states with even rubier red pockets, rural, conservative, MAGA, where voters resoundingly rejected a ballot measure that would have allowed lawmakers to ban abortion in the state. In much clearer terms, the right to an abortion will remain in the Kansas Constitution, a state constitution, by the way, that in its original form was built on opposition to slavery.
I'm super proud to be from Kansas tonight, and I feel like my state just showed up and boldly told me that they are going to take care of me and my female friends and everyone that can get pregnant in the state of Kansas. We are protected tonight.
The vote was overwhelming. According to NBC News, 914,000 people voted, which is a massive turnout for a measure put on the ballot in August. That's about 2/3 the number of votes cast in the 2020 presidential election. The first post-Roe election test proves what many of us knew. Abortion rights are a potent midterm issue, even a defining one. And yes, the fight is far from over, as more states will pose similar measures on their November primary ballots, their November ballots. But Kansas has put a wrinkle in the Republican plan to steal bodily autonomy from millions of us. Because that's what Kansans showed up for yesterday, isn't it? The right to receive abortion care, yes, but also the right to bodily integrity, to navigate with dignity, with self-ownership and self-determination, to live fully and freely. There is a rage Alito and his Republican peers tapped, an anger that is real and powerful. To think that women, girls, people, and voters would be okay with losing their freedoms? Well, it looks like Alito may have laughed a little too soon. Joining me now is Katie Paris, founder of Red, Wine, and Blue, which organizes suburban moms across the country, and Jamie Manson, president of Catholics for Choice, here in the studio with me. And I do want to start with you because your organization, Catholics for Choice, Jamie.
Yeah.
I'm a religious person. I'm a Christian. Yeah. You are a Catholic. Yeah. And I think there has been this presumption that religious people only fall on one side of the abortion issue, of the choice issue. But I grew up in the Methodist Church. They had a whole different view of what religiosity meant in terms of public life. It was helping immigrants. It was being good to the poor. I switched to the Baptist Church. It had a different thing, voting, participating in civics. That's what I heard about, not abortion. But being in the Catholic Church is different because it is very strict. And I actually like this current Pope, but even he is very strict. Yeah. What did it mean to fight an abortion measure, in your view, for Catholics and for religious people in Kansas?
It was a very powerful night last night. It was so wonderful to have a victory. And for us as Catholics, it was a David and Goliath story where we had Catholic bishops put $4 million into this campaign to ensure that people don't have abortion access. And we had two very brave nuns who came out in the Kansas City Star and said, we don't accept this. We want people to have this access. It's a matter of justice.
And the Alito thing, it is, we talked about this a little bit before the show, and I definitely did sort of speak it stuck in my craw when I watched this whole 40-minute speech. Yeah. The arrogance of him, the arrogance of basically thinking it's funny, and also trying to put forward this idea that this country is a land of religious persecution against Christians, that Christians are being persecuted simply because women have the right to decide what to do with our own bodies. What did you make of his speech? It
was very difficult to watch. To see him do a victory lap in Rome after this, it spoke volumes, because we have this incredible overreach by Catholic leaders in our civic society. They're taking away basic human rights. So it's a very painful moment. Yeah, and it isn't just Catholics. The white evangelical churches are doing it too. So it isn't just the Catholics, but it is pretty distinct. I want to talk about red, wine, and blue. Katie, thank you for being here. So this fight really did span, across women. I mean, the numbers are showing that 20% of Republicans, we don't know if they're all men or women, voted no in Kansas. We know that this cut across to independents. This was not a partisan issue. It was a bodily integrity issue. What do you make of the result in Kansas?
You're absolutely right. Last night showed us that the votes of millions of Americans can absolutely overwhelm the votes of 6 conservative extremist Supreme Court justices. And you're absolutely right. Just look at Johnson County last night. That is one of those big, populous suburban counties right outside of Kansas City. Now, in 2020, they voted for Biden by 8 points. Last night, they supported reproductive freedom by 36 points.
Wow.
That's a 28-point gain. Okay. And in Johnson County, there's Democrats, but there's a whole lot of those Republicans and unaffiliated voters. Across the state, about 50% of the votes in support of reproductive freedom came from Republicans and unaffiliated voters. So this is not just about Democrats. Absolutely. And there are Johnson counties all over this country. Here in my state of Ohio, that's just like Delaware County. In Michigan, that's just like Kent County and Oakland County. So what we saw last night, there is so much more to come. Women are fighting back, and we are talking to our friends about it too.
Can we put our map up? My map that my wonderful producers created. It shows what states are restrictive versus protective, and it's a range. So if your state is, considered a little bit restrictive, that doesn't mean that it's not a free state. But those red states are where it's the worst. Do you believe, Katie, that this is going to be a voting issue, even in red states? Because Kansas definitely indicated that it could be.
Absolutely. I mean, my networks have just been fired up today. And that is women in blue states, purple states, red states. They are energized by what they saw out of Kansas last night. The truth is that abortion access is truly threatened in half of this country. But what we know, and what I know from suburban women and looking at all the data about suburban women, but also because I'm talking to them every single day, 86% of suburban women believe that the right to decide whether or not to have an abortion should be between a woman and her doctor. That should not be up to politicians and the government. They do not support government-mandated pregnancy. They believe that you cannot be for freedom and government-mandated pregnancy at the same time. They believe Republicans have gone way too far, and they know that their freedoms are under threat. The consequences of this decision have been immediate and far-reaching. This isn't something that is just impacting some women. It's impacting all of us. So I think the consequences are going to be huge in November. And all those saying that, the women, they'll settle down by then, they'll simmer down by then, have they met many women?